Okay, so year 10. In today's lesson, we're just going to recap finding a missing angle using trigonometry. So we'll just go through a few examples of this together. So to start with, we've got our right angled triangle here. First step is exactly the same as before. We're always going to start by labelling up our sides. So you remember this is our angle. Our hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. This is our hypotenuse. This is angle X, so this side is opposite it. And then this side here is next to angle X, so this is our adjacent. That's step 1. Step 2, we need to choose whether we're using sin, cos or tan. And this time around, like what needs to be in your head, what you should be thinking about is what two sides do I know? So in this case, I know the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So now I'm just going to rewrite out so katoa. Oh, where's my pen gone? Oh, let me just change colour pen. I'm just going to write out so katoa. And now at this point, because it's to do with the adjacent and the hypotenuse, A and H, it's going to be can, because cos. Cos is A and H. Step 3, exactly the same as when we're finding a missing side. We write out our formula. So my formula for cos is cos angle equals adj over it, like so. And now we are going to substitute the values from the particular question into our formula here. So it's going to become cos. And then instead of writing the word angle, we're going to write x, because the angle is x, equals. Now my adjacent is 7, and my hypotenuse is 12. And now this is super important, because this next step is not complicated, but people get this muddled all the time. We have got cos of x. We want to get x by itself. Okay, we want to get to x by itself. Now the way to do that isn't to divide by cos, it's to do the inverse of cos. Now the inverse of cos is cos the power of -1. This is the notation for the inverse of cos. So we've done that to both sides of our equation. And so into your calculator, all you need to type is cos -1, 7 over 12. To make it look like this, in your calculator, press shift and then press cos. So you press shift and then press cos, and that gets you to the inverse. So all I'm going to do now is type that into my calculator. Give me just 1 second. So inverse cos, shift cos, 7 over 12 gives me this. It gives me an answer of 54.3 degrees, and that's correct to 1 decimal place. And that's all there is to it. We'll do a second and maybe a third just to get you to grips with that. So next example then here, same instructions as before. Step 1, we're going to label our sides. We'll go a little bit quicker now. So up here then, our hypotenuse. This is angle X, so this is the opposite. This is next to angle X, so this is the adjacent. We now need to choose using so katoa, which we'll be using. And so we're thinking to ourselves, what two sides do we know? We know the opposite and we know the hypotenuse, therefore we're going to use sin or so. So we copy out now our formula for sin. So my formula for sin looks like. After that, we substitute in our values from the question. So it becomes sin. Instead of being angle, it becomes sin of x equals, and then my opposite is 8, and my hypotenuse is 14. And so at this stage, now we've got to here, we need to do the inverse of sin. The inverse of sin is sin -1. That's the inverse of sin, 8 over 14. So we get our calculators out now and we type this in. So we type in shift and then sin and then 8 divided by 14. And when we do that, we get this answer here of 34.8 degrees. And that is correct to, let's write that down, that's correct to 1 decimal place. And that's it. Final example then, hopefully just to get you to speed with all of that. So first step, as before, with any trigonometry problem, doesn't matter what you're doing, we're going to begin by labelling up those sides. So this is our hypotenuse, this is my angle, so 5 is opposite the angle, 10 is next to, so it's the adjacent. Now we're going to write out so, ka, toa. We are thinking, what two sides do I know? So in this case, I know the opposite, I know the adjacent. So the opposite and the adjacent means we need to use tan. So now we've chosen tan, we write out our formula for tan, which is tan angle equals op over edge. We then write out again as tan x equals the opposite, which is 5, over the adjacent, which is 10. And so now it looks like that. We need to do the inverse of tan to both sides. The inverse of tan is tan to the minus 1, 5 over 10, like that. And that there is what you put into your calculator. So you get your calculator and you type in shift tan 5 divided by 10. And when you do that, you get to 1 decimal place 26.6 degrees. And again, I've rounded that to 1 decimal place. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now then, year 10. I hope that's been helpful. As ever, have a go at the questions, mark your work as you go along. And if anything's not quite working out and you're not sure why, please get in contact to let me know. Good luck.